It was just so funny listening to them explain it, because that's how people legitimately think of us. They think of us as like, we show up, they call us ambulance drivers, we show up and just stare at someone and go, and then, load them up in the back of the hearse.
From Los Angeles, this is Code 3, the Firefighters podcast, hosted by award-winning journalist Scott Orr. Code 3 features interviews with leading members of the fire service, discussing firefighting strategy, tactics, and other topics you need to know more about. Now, here's Scott.
That's right, and I will not let Parkinson stop me. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Code 3. You are listening to the show for and about firefighters that gets the point across in about 20 minutes. Let's get started. If you spend any time on Facebook, you've probably seen the videos posted by Fire Department Chronicles. If you haven't, you need to. Go there right now and look them up. I'll wait. You're back? Good. The man behind these videos is Jason Patton. He usually, but not always, plays all the roles himself. Here's one of my favorites.
New scenario. You arrive on scene, patient's in full respiratory arrest. Okay, he's in respiratory arrest. I'm going to go ahead and grab my airway bag and intubate him. Can't intubate him. There's an octopus on his face. Okay, I'm going to pull the octopus off. The octopus has been trained in the art of anti-pulling. You can't get him off. I'm going to get my scalpel. I'm going to get my scalpel and I'm going to cut it off. You can't get the scalpel out. Your partner has glued the airway bag shut. Why would he do that? It doesn't matter. What are you going to do?
Jason's covered a lot of ground on these videos. From whether TV shows about firefighters are realistic, what do you think he found, to how to get fired. But the one that caught my attention most recently was one in which he critiqued a Wall Street Journal video about firefighting. It was titled 5 Things a Firefighter or Paramedic Won't Tell You. There's a link to the video in the show notes. Anyway, Jason set about correcting the record in his own unique way.
The first objective of any EMT is simply to stabilize and transport the patient to a higher level of care.
Question. When you say simply stabilize them and transport them to a higher level of care, do you mean stop them from dying? Because if that's what you meant, you're correct. See, our job is to stop them from dying in the field so we can get them to a hospital and they can make sure that they live a nice, healthy life. And just in case you're wondering, here's a very small list of the things that we can simply stabilize them in. It's going to be seizures, strokes, burns, heart attacks, drowning, cardiac arrest, tension pneumo, fractures, bleeding, penetrating injuries, diabetic emergencies, hyperkalemia, hypokalemia, hypertension, hypotension, childbirth, SVT, VTAC, asystole, and of course the occasional overdose. So, yeah.
Jason Patton is a career firefighter and paramedic who has worked for Riviera Beach, Florida Fire Rescue for 11 years. He also works with a treatment center specializing in mental health and addiction for first responders. And he's the vice president of Fire Department Coffee. And Jason Patton joins me now. Welcome to Code 3.
How are you?
Doing well. So Jason, you are a madman on these videos. What prompted you to start producing them?
Honestly, it all started with, us messing around the station. Like a lot of people have done this over the years. We'll film ourselves doing whatever, something, nothing too stupid because you never want to put that on the interwebs or anything, but just messing around, standard stuff. We threw a couple videos up on the internet and Facebook and stuff like that. Got some views. And the whole thing was we were doing National Geographic Fire Department edition. So we were having a good time, joking and laughing and everything. And then we put up one and we were hunting for the paramedic via his natural mating call, which was bitching. And they got like 100,000 views in like 8 hours and I was freaking out. But I think it's because it's definitely about as true as you can possibly get when it comes to any of these, stereotypical things that we all deal with.
Nah, these videos are usually pretty funny, but sometimes they also make a serious point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This one on the Wall Street Journal story was like that.
Yeah.
What was the problem with the story that you saw?
I think just a lot of times, especially with firefighters and paramedics and EMTs, all the statements are very generalized. And then instead of doing any realistic research on any of this stuff, it's all just this, they work 24/48s, which is 100% true for most people. But what they don't realize is that's 8 hours more per week than the average person is working. And then on top of that, there's 70% of us are volunteers and they're doing that. And then on another layer, even on top of that I couldn't even make into the video because it would have made it too long, but was that all of us have at least one second job. And it's not because we want to do additional work. It's because most people don't get paid very well to do this. I know the average EMT is making about $9 an hour. So it was kind of so generalized, so just like painting this really bad picture of us that, I was like, I have to combat this. I have to, have a rebuttal to it.
Now, I went back and found the actual Wall Street Journal story, and it is a few years old. It was written by a man named Daniel Goldstein. It's 10 things firefighters and paramedics won't tell you. So I'm going to go through them real quick. Number 1 is we don't fight many fires anymore, which, may or may not be true depending on where you live. Mm-hmm. But as you pointed out, the fires that are fought are hotter and more dangerous. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is we're short-staffed, so we're sleepy, which you addressed. Number 3 is some people use us as a taxi service.
Yes.
And that goes along with number 4. You're getting charged for this ambulance ride.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine too many paramedics would sit there and go, well, let's figure out whether your insurance is going to pay for 80% of this or 100%.
Yeah, and I actually made a point to that one, but I didn't want to really go into it. But I mean, the agencies have to get paid. Like, they need to be able to staff people. I mean, there are volunteer ambulance services, but a lot of with volunteers, I mean, they're doing it and it's incredible and it's so cool that they do it. But the response times tend to be, a little bit longer than your average if you have career people in the stations themselves. And it's because unless it's during the day or somebody's in the station hanging out, which, a lot of volleys do, which is incredible. These guys or girls are responding from their house or from their other jobs or whatever. So yeah, I would rather have a career or paid people there to reduce those times a little bit, especially depending on what the medical emergency is.
Number 5 is we will try and save your life, but not always your house. In the article, there was a quote from Rick Lasky about risking a lot to save a life.
Yeah, and I actually that would be one of them that I actually agreed with. Like, save your life, but I mean, if it's getting you out or saving your house, we're going to pick you 10 out of 10 times.
Number 6 is we only work 8 days a month, which we've discussed. Number 7 is fun. We get paid way more or way less than you think. I mean, they tried to have it both ways in that one.
Yeah, that's about as generalized as you can get. I mean, it's, people legitimately either think we make $1 million a year or they think, we make nothing, which actually the latter is probably a lot more true. Most guys are not swimming in cash. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, and I'll give you number 8. We'd like to be your neighbor, but we can't afford to.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Number 9, too many of us are out of shape. We've addressed that. That was just unnecessary. Mm-hmm. Number 10, I thought was interesting because it was the place you started, I believe. We may not know what's wrong with you.
And when it was funny because when I originally went through the list, I was listening and I was like, the generalized thought process is correct. But then when they explained what the reasoning was behind those statements, they were ridiculous. Like, our first off, she kept calling it consults, and I couldn't figure out, well, who consult a doctor? Like, that's for like plastic surgery. That's when you go in for a consult, But I mean, like, when when we were like, we're not consulting a doctor over the radio. I've done that one time in the 14 years that I've been doing this. And it was because I needed to give an extra dose of a drug that was outside of my protocols for a seizure. But it was just so funny listening to them explain it, because that's how people legitimately think of us. They think of us as like, we show up, they call us ambulance drivers, we show up and just stare at someone and go, and then, load them up in the back of the hearse, because that's, obviously what they used to use. You just load them in the back of the hearse, and then how much diesel can we get into this thing? Go. But I mean, it's obviously, depending on where you work, there's a county north of me. They do nitroglycerin drips. They still use dopamine for dopamine drips. I mean, they do epinephrine drips. They do they have protocols. I think they're still trained on pericardial synthesis. Like, these guys are trained well above what most people are trained to, and it's because of the environment that they're in. So yeah, just to say that we load and go, 100% not true.
Now, the story had an interesting quote, which I'll read here. Even paramedics who can administer life-saving drugs, insert breathing tubes, and can read cardiac monitors can't do a lot of interventions in the field that they used to without an okay from a doctor at a hospital first.
It really comes down to what kind of interventions do you want us doing in the field? I mean, when we bring these people into the hospital, depending on what their situation is, they need to go into sterile environments. I mean, the number one thing killing people in hospitals and depending on the situations, it's going to be infection, right? So infection and dehydration, the two biggest things that kill people who have burns. So, you don't want us doing certain things in the field. Not that we couldn't do it, but, we try to minimize the amount of outside exposure that's happening. So, yeah, I mean, but again, depending on the area that you're in, depending on what your level of training is, you're doing everything that a doctor's doing. The only difference is we don't have an x-ray machine. And I've actually heard about them possibly trying those things out inside the trucks, and I'm good.
So this story strikes me as sort of half accurate. It plays up the startling aspects, but downplays the reality. Do you find that in a lot of cases in stories like this that are written by everyday reporters that this happens?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a standard. I think that's a standard practice for. I'd love to say news agencies. Like, I don't blame this lady. I know what she's doing. She's doing what her job is. Her job is to read a prompter and explain the story and whatever. I mean, she has to report on a million things a day. So, it is what it is. But people, especially news agencies, they will paint the picture to obviously go towards their own motives or whatever their thought process is, or so on and so forth. But it's not just news agencies, it's everybody. Everybody does that. Everybody paints a picture that definitely demonstrates their thought processes or really goes for whatever they're trying to represent.
All right, that's fair. Now let's talk about Hollywood for a bit. What's the most realistic or least fake TV show about firefighters and or paramedics?
I would say Rescue Me. I didn't see the latter seasons. I know it got a little crazy, but Rescue Me was really good to see what the internal workings of a fire department was, especially someone as traditional, culture driven as FDNY. That those types of places that seems to be about as realistic as you can get, the machismo. And that was a big thing. That show had a ton of machismo in it. And that is probably the foundation of most of firefighting, paramedics, and everything. Tacoma FD seems to find the humorous side of that kind of stuff. So that's obviously very refreshing to see. I did not watch Sirens, but Sirens was supposedly pretty good about that. So I didn't get a chance to watch it. But for what those shows represented, those seem to be the most realistic and the best approach to finding some entertainment in what we do.
For the time, of course, my personal favorite is Emergency, because back then, that was, some people thought it was an actual documentary.
Yeah, and it's, I had a battalion chief that would watch that every day. We'd walk in and get Emergency on. Yeah, you're right. At the time, that's exact. And that's why I made that comment in the beginning. Like, was all the research done on that show? Because that's how it was. You had a doctor there, you had a doctor consult. You know, in other countries, they still have physicians that go on ambulances with the paramedics or EMTs, depending on whatever level they want with them. And the doctor's the one that treats the people. So, you know, in other countries, that is actually still valid. Yeah, emergency definitely. Yeah, like you said at the time, that's the way it was. I mean, medicine in general, especially paramedics and paramedicine, that it's still not super old. I mean, I know some of my instructors that I had 15 years ago had some of the first paramedic licenses. In fact, one of the guys that worked here had one of the first paramedic licenses, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, you know, I have a friend who said, you know, you're getting old when you pop the caps like Johnny and Roy, and you look at your partner and your partner goes, what? You know, oh, come on, you must know what that is. Well, I made reference to mask pants one day in an emergency department, and an older nurse looked at me and said, man, you're old. And the younger nurse looked at her and said, what are mask pants? Yeah. She said, obsolete.
We found out it was killing a lot more people than it was saving, so we had to get rid of this thing.
So what's your favorite movie about firefighting?
We love the classics just because they're so bad. Like, you watch Backdraft before you become a firefighter and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then you become a firefighter, you're like, Jesus Christ, all those people would have been dead in the first 20 minutes of this movie. Like, you know, 100% true. You know, I love Ladder 49. Ladder 49 seemed to kind of gravitate more towards the reality of life and what really, you know, I like how they played the pranks on each other, you know, that's the way it is in a firehouse. And we all know that a lot of that stuff wouldn't have happened, but, you know, probably those two tend to be the more humorous and probably the closer ones, or not humorous, but the closer ones that I like.
So what's your most popular topic to do videos on? Right
now, it seems to be rebuttals. You know, it seems to be like watching the shows and explaining what would have really happened, or, you know, rebuttals against people that have interesting opinions about firefighters. The go-to number ones that always seem to do well, no matter what the environment is or what's going on, is any kind of description of what like the different people that you're going to work with. Because what is absolutely hysterical to me, and I've been traveling around just for various reasons ever since the, you know, Fire Department Chronicles started about 4 years ago. It does not matter what station you walk into. It doesn't matter what city it's in. It doesn't matter what country it's in. Every single fire station you walk into all has the same exact people. I mean, it does. I don't know if it's like something that you don't even realize happens, or if it's built into your DNA when you become a firefighter. But the second you walk in there, there's that driver engineer that doesn't want to do anything, or the other driver engineer that checks their truck out completely. You know, you got the guy that just wants to come in, do no duties at all, or the guy that's doing everything. You got the guy that's farting all the time, or the guy that's stealing all the food out of the refrigerator. You know, like, I mean, there's just always the same group of people. That guy that's showing up 2 minutes before shift change and you want to punch him in the face because you don't want to get a late call. Like, it's always the same. It's always the same no matter what.
Which is probably why your videos resonate, because everybody can recognize the people they work with.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. Like, I put out the different paramedics and the different EMTs and different drivers was a big one, you know, like, or things. I mean, universally, all of our patients all say the same thing. They all do. Like, you walk in there and you have the lady who's like, I'm showing a breath. And then she's like, let me finish this cigarette. And you're like, you are obviously not that short of breath. You know, it's always the same.
Well, you do a great job with those videos. I've noticed your YouTube channel has, hundreds of thousands of views. So you're doing a great job with them. Keep it up.
I appreciate it. I very much appreciate that.
All right, Jason Patton, thanks for joining me today on Code 3.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
What do you think of the way news media and or Hollywood portrays firefighters? Any pilot will tell you reporters don't generally have the specialized knowledge of the subject that it takes to report on aviation. And the same is frequently true of firefighting and EMS as well. Now, cops and fire were my beats for a lot of my career as a newsman, and I spent a lot of time explaining to other reporters how this stuff works. They didn't know. I'd like to hear what your experience has been like. You can leave your comments on our website at code3podcast.com/funny. There's links to more info like Jason's company, Fire Department Coffee, and videos there as well. Check it out. Alright, that's it. That's all for this edition of Code 3. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next time with more, and I hope you'll join me. I'm Scott Orr, and until then, stay safe.
To contact us, get more information on today's show, or to subscribe to the podcast, go to code3podcast.com.